All right, let's jump right in.
Sounds good.
Today we're diving deep into Fluent Forever by Gabriel Weiner.
Okay.
This book claims to completely change the way people learn languages.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had a chance to check it out?
I have, yeah. It's fascinating.
Okay, great.
It really is.
So it's not your typical language learning book, is it?
Definitely not. The author, Gabriel Weiner, he has a really unique background.
Oh, does he? Okay, tell me more about that.
Yeah, so he was actually an opera singer.
Oh, wow.
And he had to learn, like, multiple languages.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah, very quickly for his career.
Yeah.
So that experience kind of led to this method he outlines in the book.
Interesting. So he had to kind of hack his own learning process.
Exactly.
Yeah, to become fluent so quickly.
Yeah. It makes you think, like, are there more efficient ways to learn a language
Right. Yeah.
than just the traditional methods?
Yeah, because I've dabbled in, a few languages myself,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always felt a little intimidating,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah, I get that.
To try to tackle a new language.
Yeah.
But one of the things Weiner starts with is he kind of dismantles this myth I think a lot of us hold on to,
Oh.
which is the myth of the hard language.
Mm-hmm.
He basically says there's no such thing.
Oh, interesting.
Anyone can learn any language.
He says that.
Yeah. That's kind of a bold statement, isn't it?
It is. It's empowering, though, right?
It is empowering, yeah.
Yeah.
I do kind of wonder, I mean, some languages just seem like they're inherently more complex than others.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you know what? He actually addresses that
Well, does he?
head on
Oh,
with a really kind of amusing anecdote.
okay.
He talks about how he actually, like, cheated
Oh, wow.
on a French placement test.
He cheated using what?
He used Google Translate and some grammar websites.
No way.
Yeah. And he ended up in a class way above his level.
Oh, right.
He had to, like, cram, a year's worth of French into 3 months.
To keep up.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing.
Oh, wow. Talk about putting your money where your mouth is.
Right. But, like, he's living proof of his own method.
So what did he learn from that?
That was a turning point for him, that experience.
Uh-huh.
It kind of forced him to really abandon those traditional language learning methods, like,
Okay.
all the rote memorization, the endless grammar drills.
Yeah.
And it made him find a much more efficient
Okay.
and engaging way to learn.
So what was that?
And so he discovered that instead of focusing on, like, grammar rules
Mm-hmm.
and translations,
Yeah, okay.
the key to unlocking fluency
Mhm.
was actually mastering the sound system of the language.
So the sound.
Yeah, the sounds of the language you're learning.
Interesting. So like before you even worry about memorizing
Yeah.
vocabulary,
Yeah.
grammar rules and all that.
Exactly. Focus on the sounds first.
Wow.
Because, when you think about it, when you hear a word in your native language, you don't consciously translate it, right? You just, like, understand it instantly.
Yeah.
You've already, like, internalized that whole sound system. And
Yeah.
so he wants you to develop that same,
Kind of intuitive.
that same intuitive understanding
Okay.
in your target language.
And he believes that focusing on the sounds first
yeah.
actually activates
More areas of your brain
interesting.
that are involved in memory.
Okay, so there's a cognitive element to this as well.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, you mentioned memory,
Mm-hmm.
and the book goes into these 5 key memory principles
Yes.
that form the foundation of his method.
Right.
And these principles are really all about
Yeah.
optimizing
Yes.
the way we learn and retain information.
Exactly.
So could you walk us through those principles?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first principle is all about
Yeah.
making memories more memorable.
Okay, I like that.
Right. Makes sense. So he encourages us to connect words to, like, vivid images, personal experiences, even emotions. So it's not just, like,
Yeah.
passively reading
Yeah, yeah.
words on a page.
Right.
It's about creating
Right.
this multisensory experience
Okay,
that really brings the language to life.
I like that.
Yeah, it makes it more real,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
And then that ties in really nicely with the second principle,
Okay.
which is maximize laziness.
Maximize laziness. I love that.
Right. Sounds counterintuitive,
Yeah, it does.
but it's all about working smarter, not harder.
Okay, so it's about finding shortcuts, but in a good way.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So he's all about finding those efficient learning strategies that, like, give you the most bang for your buck, basically.
Right.
And one of those
Okay.
key techniques is active recall.
Okay.
which he emphasizes in his principle, don't review, recall.
Don't review, recall.
Yeah.
Okay.
So instead of passively reviewing, like flipping through flashcards,
Right.
just hoping things stick,
Yeah.
he wants you to actually test yourself
Uh-huh.
and like actively retrieve that information from memory.
Okay.
It's like a mental workout for your language skills.
Right. It's like lifting weights for your brain.
Exactly. And that ties back to, you know, that forgetting curve we talked about.
Right.
Like our brains
Yeah.
naturally forget information over time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But we can like combat that by actually trying to recall that information right before we're about to forget it.
Okay, so it's like timing those reviews perfectly.
Right,
Like,
exactly. To maximize how much we retain.
That's fascinating. Sounds like there's a lot of science behind this method.
There is.
What's the next principle?
Okay, the next one is, wait, don't tell me.
Wait, don't tell me.
Yeah, so it's all about
Yeah.
delaying those answers just a little bit.
When you're testing yourself.
Yeah, when you're testing yourself. It might be frustrating at
Okay.
first, but that struggle is actually like boosting your memory.
Okay. That's almost like pushing yourself to the limit at the gym to get those gains.
Exactly.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So we've got make memories more memorable, maximize laziness, don't review, recall. Wait, don't tell me. What's the last one?
The final principle is rewrite the past.
Rewrite the past. Okay.
Okay,
And it emphasizes the power of immediate feedback.
Uh-huh.
So when you make a mistake and you get that immediate feedback, you're essentially like rewriting your memory
Okay.
and solidifying that correct information.
Interesting. So it's like almost like you're going back in time
Right.
and correcting that mistake.
Exactly.
So that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got these 5 principles for effective learning. But how do we actually put them into practice
Right.
when we're learning a new language?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
He introduces this concept of spaced repetition systems,
Spaced repetition systems.
or SRS.
Okay. Which are designed to like optimize
Mm-hmm.
the timing of your reviews.
Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty.
We are.
Okay, I'm ready.
This is where it starts to all like click together. Hold on to it. Tell me more. Okay. You mentioned spaced repetition systems.
Yeah.
So for those of us who aren't familiar, what exactly is spaced repetition?
Right. So spaced repetition, it's a learning technique
Okay.
that basically leverages that forgetting curve
Right.
that we were just talking about.
Oh, wait.
It involves reviewing material at increasing intervals,
Okay.
just as you're about to forget it,
Okay.
to reinforce it in your memory.
So instead of cramming everything at once,
Yeah.
you're spacing it out strategically.
Exactly.
It sounds clever.
It's all about like
Okay.
outsmarting your brain's natural tendency to forget things.
Right. But how does that actually work in practice?
So he recommends using flashcards,
Okay.
but not the traditional kind.
Oh, okay.
He proposes creating these like multisensory flashcards.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So we're talking like vivid images,
Okay.
personal connections, even audio recording.
Audio recordings on flashcards.
Yeah. It's about making those memories stick.
Okay. So paint me a picture here. What do these flashcards look like?
All right. First of all, ditch the translations.
It's the translations.
Yeah.
Ah,
So instead of putting the English word on the back of the card,
right.
you use images, drawings, even real-life objects that represent the word.
Whoa, hold on. No translations at all.
Nope.
How am I supposed to know what the word means then?
That's the beauty of it.
Okay.
By forcing your brain to make that direct connection between the word and the image,
Okay.
you're bypassing that translation step
Okay.
and building a deeper understanding.
So I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Instead of like mentally translating gato to cat,
Right.
I'd see a picture of a cat
Exactly.
and immediately associate that image with the Spanish word gato. But how do I know what image to use?
So Weiner, he encourages us to get creative,
Okay.
even a little playful
Yeah.
with our image choices.
Okay.
He suggests using Google Images
Interesting.
to find images that are, you know, interesting, humorous, maybe even a little absurd.
Okay, so not just like a generic image.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. You want something that's going to, like, stick in your memory.
So instead of just a regular cat, I might look for a picture of a cat
Yeah.
wearing a tiny hat
Exactly.
or riding a Roomba or something.
Yeah, something memorable.
I can see how that would make it more memorable.
Exact.
And you also mentioned audio recordings on these flashcards.
Yeah. So adding audio is a great way to, like, engage another sense and
All right.
reinforce that memory.
So you can either record yourself.
You could record yourself.
Okay.
Or you can find recordings from native speakers online.
Right. Okay.
There are tons of websites that offer pronunciation guides and stuff.
So it's like a multi-sensory experience.
It is.
Right there on the flashcard.
Yeah.
Okay. And then all these flashcards, they get plugged into.
They get plugged into that spaced repetition system.
Right. That SRS.
Exactly.
Okay. So walk me through that. How does that actually work?
Oh, so you use an app
Okay.
or software that basically schedules
Okay.
when you review each flashcard
Okay.
based on how well you do.
Okay. So if I get a word right,
If you get it right,
I see it less often.
yeah, you see it less often.
But if I'm struggling with it,
It'll pop up more frequently.
so it's like a personalized tutor.
It is, yeah.
That's really cool.
It's tailoring that learning process to your needs.
Wow. Okay. And this whole approach to flashcards, it just seems so much more engaging
It is.
than the old school methods.
Definitely.
Now, you mentioned that Weiner doesn't stop at vocabulary.
All right.
He applies this to grammar as well.
Yes.
Grammar flashcards.
Yeah.
That sounds a little
I know, right?
tricky.
But it works.
Okay, so how do grammar flashcards even work?
Okay. So he suggests breaking down those grammar rules into simple example sentences
Okay.
and then creating flashcards for each element
Okay.
of those sentences.
Okay.
For example, if you're learning verb conjugations,
Okay.
you would create a flashcard for each pronoun with the corresponding conjugated verb form.
Okay.
And instead of translations, you'd have an image
Right.
that represents the action.
Okay, I'm trying to picture this.
Yeah.
So if I was learning, like, the Spanish verb comer,
Okay.
to eat,
Mm-hmm.
I might have a card with a picture of someone eating, like
Yeah.
a giant burrito,
Okay, yeah.
and the phrase, yo como un burrito gigante.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you'd have other cards for tú comes, él come, you know?
Okay, so you'd have a whole set of cards
Yeah, a whole set.
for each pronoun
Uh-huh.
with the corresponding verb conjugation
Exactly.
and the image of someone eating a giant burrito.
Yeah, it's visual, it's engaging.
This is really blowing my mind.
Right?
I mean, it just seems like Weiner's method
Yeah,
is all about finding these creative ways
it is.
to make language learning fun and engaging.
Yeah. And he believes that when you enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be more successful.
Now, earlier you talked about how Fluent Forever actually dives into the cognitive science behind language learning,
Right.
particularly the impact it has on our brains.
Yes.
Can we talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely.
Because I'm really fascinated by this idea that learning a new language
Yeah.
can actually change your brain.
It's pretty incredible, right?
It is. So how does that work?
So he discusses this concept called the bilingual effect.
Bilingual effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which basically refers to the cognitive benefits
Yeah.
that bilingual individuals often have.
Over monolingual individuals.
Yeah. So studies have shown
Yeah.
that learning a new language can actually boost your cognitive abilities.
Like what kinds of benefits are we talking about?
We're talking improved memory, enhanced problem-solving skills, even boosted creativity.
Wow. So it's not just about,
It's not just about communicating.
right? It's about
Yeah.
enhancing your overall cognitive fitness.
Exactly. It's like a workout for your brain.
Right.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And
Ron.
some studies have even shown
Okay.
that it can delay the onset of age-related cognitive decline,
Oh, wow.
like dementia.
That's amazing.
It is.
So it's really good for your brain health.
It is, yeah.
To learn new languages. That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Mhm.
And Weiner, he talks about this from like a personal perspective, right?
He does. He
Think-
shares a really touching anecdote
Okay.
about how learning Italian changed his perspective and created this like unique set of memories associated with the language.
That's beautiful.
It is, yeah. He talks about how certain
Yeah.
Italian words and phrases, they evoke like these vivid memories and emotions
Yeah.
connected to like places he visited, experiences he had while learning the language.
It really highlights how language is more than just,
It's more than just a tool.
right.
Yeah.
It's a gateway to different cultures,
Yeah.
different perspectives,
Yes,
even emotions.
exactly.
Now, let's be honest. Learning a new language can be really challenging.
It can be.
So what does Weiner have to say about,
Yeah.
overcoming those challenges
Yeah.
and staying motivated?
So he encourages us to like
Aye.
embrace the journey
Right.
with all of its like ups and downs.
Right. The highs and the lows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a journey that takes, time, effort, patience.
Patience.
And it's important to like set realistic goals,
Okay.
celebrate those small victories along the way,
Okay.
and find ways to make it enjoyable.
I think that's so important, making it fun.
It is, yeah.
Because if you're having fun, you're more likely to stick with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, he offers all these like creative and engaging strategies to do that.
Like what?
From those image-rich flashcards
Right.
to playing language taboo,
Okay.
creating those mini immersion experiences.
It's about finding what works for you.
It is, yeah.
I love that idea of playing language taboo.
It's a good one.
It sounds like such a fun and challenging way to practice.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It gets you thinking on your feet.
But what about finding opportunities to actually practice
Right.
with native speakers?
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a challenge for some people.
It can be. But Weiner, he gives a ton of resources.
Oh, Devi.
For connecting with native speakers,
Yeah.
both online and offline.
Yeah.
So he recommends websites like italki and Verbaling for finding language exchange partners and tutors.
Okay.
And if you're lucky enough to live in a city
All right.
that has a diverse population, you might even find like language exchange meetups
Right.
or groups.
I mean, sometimes we forget about those local resources
We do.
that are right there,
Yeah.
right in our communities.
Absolutely.
Speaking of resources, Weiner's book is packed with them.
It is,
Like,
yeah.
it seems like a one-stop shop for language learners
It is.
of all levels
Yeah, for real.
and interests.
It is. And he encourages us to experiment,
Okay.
find what works best for us.
Yeah.
Because there's no like
One size fits all.
one size fits all approach.
Okay.
It's about finding
Yeah.
the methods and resources that work for you.
I think that's such an important message.
It is.
You know, there's no right or wrong way
Right.
to learn a language.
Exactly.
It's about finding what works for you
Yeah.
and enjoying the process.
And enjoying it. Exactly.
Right. Now, I want to touch on one last point
Okay.
that Weiner raises, which is this idea that language learning can actually be good for the soul.
Yeah.
So,
More than just
yeah.
acquiring a skill.
Yeah.
It's like about connecting with the world in a deeper way.
So what does that mean for our listeners?
So I think the takeaway here
Okay.
is that Weiner's book really offers
Yeah.
this practical and accessible roadmap
Okay.
to language learning. It's grounded in real science.
Right.
It's packed with these actionable strategies.
Yeah.
And it's a method that really encourages experimentation,
Okay.
personalization,
Yeah.
and most importantly,
Yeah.
a sense of play.
And maybe, just maybe,
Mm-hmm.
it can lead to a little soul searching along the way.
Maybe so.
All right. So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
But before we wrap things up,
Yeah.
is there anything else from Fluent Forever that you think our listeners should know?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more we could dive into.
Yep.
But I think one of the most important takeaways
Okay.
is that, language learning really can be so much more than just memorizing words and grammar rules.
Right. It's about opening yourself up to new ways of thinking, to
Yeah.
new cultures,
Mm-hmm.
to new experiences.
And it can really enrich your life.
Yeah, in countless ways.
In so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we forget that aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
like the joy of discovery
Yeah.
and the personal growth that can come along with the process.
Absolutely. And Weiner, he really emphasizes
Yeah.
that he wants you to enjoy the process, embrace those aha moments,
Right.
celebrate your progress along the way.
Now, speaking of celebrating progress,
Yeah.
one thing I've always struggled with
Okay.
in my language learning journey is staying motivated.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice
Mm-hmm.
for our listeners who might be feeling stuck or discouraged?
Yeah. He has some great advice for staying motivated.
Okay.
He reminds us that fluency is a marathon,
Okay.
not a sprint.
Right.
It's a journey that takes, time, effort, and patience.
Patience. Yeah, that's a big one.
And it's so important to set,
Okay.
realistic goals. Celebrate those small victories along the way.
Yeah.
Find ways to make the process enjoyable.
I think that's key, making it fun.
It is, yeah.
Because when you're enjoying it, you're more likely to stick with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he offers a wealth of creative and engaging strategies to do that.
Like what kinds of things?
So we've got the image-rich flashcards,
Right.
the Google image deep dives,
Okay.
playing language taboo,
Yeah.
creating those mini immersion experiences.
It's really about, like we were saying before, finding what works for you.
It is, yeah.
I love that idea of language taboo. It's
Yeah.
such a simple but effective way to practice,
Yeah.
speaking and thinking on your feet.
It is. But what about finding opportunities to practice
Yeah.
with native speakers? I mean, that can be a challenge for some learners.
It can be,
Right.
but, Weiner, he provides a ton of resources for connecting with native speakers.
Oh, does?
both online and offline.
Oh. So he recommends websites like italki, Verbling, for finding those language exchange partners
Right.
and tutors.
Okay.
And then, if you're lucky enough to live in a city
Right.
with a diverse population,
Yeah.
you might even find language exchange meetups.
Right, yeah.
Or groups in your local area.
Sometimes we forget about those local resources.
We do.
Yeah.
Those are right there at our fingertips.
Exactly, right in our own communities.
Yeah.
And speaking resources,
Yeah.
Weiner's book is packed with them.
It really is.
This is like a one-stop shop for language learners
Hiya.
of all levels
It is.
and interests.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
And, he encourages us to experiment.
Okay.
Find what works best for us.
Mhm.
Because there's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Right, there isn't.
It's about finding the methods and resources
Right.
that resonate with you.
Yeah, I think that's such an important message.
It is.
There's no right or wrong way to learn a language.
Exactly.
It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
And enjoying the process.
And enjoying it. That's key.
Right.
It should be fun.
It should be.
Yeah.
And remember,
Yeah.
the journey itself can be incredibly rewarding.
It can.
As Weiner points out, language learning, it's more than just acquiring a skill.
Right.
It's about expanding your horizons, connecting with other cultures, and even enhancing your cognitive abilities. It's about challenging yourself,
Yes.
pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone,
Yeah.
and discovering talents and passions that you never knew you had.
Absolutely.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive
Right.
into Fluent Forever,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away?
I hope they feel inspired and empowered to embark on their own
Yeah.
language learning adventures.
Okay.
I hope they realize that fluency is attainable,
Right.
regardless of age, background, previous experiences,
Yeah.
and most importantly,
Yeah.
I hope they remember to have fun along the way.
That's a great message.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
language learning should be a joyful experience.
It should be.
It should be about connecting with others,
Yeah.
exploring new cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and expanding our understanding of the world
Exactly.
and ourselves.
Well said.
So to our listeners out there,
Yeah.
what are you waiting for?
Mm-hmm.
Pick a language.
Yeah.
Find a method that resonates with you
Find what works for you.
and dive in.
Dive in.
The world of language learning awaits.
It does.
And it's filled with wonder, discovery, and endless possibilities.
Endless.
All right. That's it for today's deep dive
Okay.
into Fluent Forever.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Yeah, this was fun.
Until next time, happy learning.
Happy learning.